1000 tonan lah, Kang.
Selamat siang,
Good
selamat
afternoon,
salam
good
sejahtera bagi kita
morning,
semua.
peace
Selamat
be
datang
upon us all.
Bapak-bapak,
Welcome,
Ibu-ibu,
ladies and
adik-adik semuanya
gentlemen,
yang
and
telah
all
hadir
participants
dalam
who are here
acara
with us
perayaan
in to
satu
celebrate
dekade
the
program
decade of
Indonesia
the
Biogas Rumah.
domestic
Sangat
biogas program
senang
in
sekali
Indonesia. It's
pagi
our great
ini
pleasure
kita
that
bisa
this
berkumpul
morning
dalam
we are
sesi
able to
lanjutan dari sesi
convene
diskusi
for a
yang ada
continuous
di ruangan
session of a
tiga,
discussion, which is
ruangan biro
being
kita,
held in room
di mana
3,
di pagi
where
ini kita
this
akan
morning,
membahas
we will
satu
be
topik yang mungkin
discussing a topic
akan
that
menarik bagi
might be
beberapa
interesting
partisipan di sini,
for
bagi
some
kita
of the
semua tentunya.
participants here and
Di
even for
tengah
all of us.
kelangkaan pupuk, sebetulnya
With the scarcity of
program Indonesia
fertilizers,
Biogas Rumah
the
sedikit mungkin saya
domestic
perkenalkan,
biogas program
Biogas Rumah ini
Indonesia
sudah dilaksanakan
has been
sekitar 10 tahun
implemented
lebih
for
kurang,
a
di
decade,
mana selama
where
ini sudah terbangun sekitar
currently we have around
25.035
25,000
unit reaktor
35
biogas sebagai
biogas
penunjang
reactors
dari
of
mulai 0
various sizes
sampai
from 4
100 meter
cubic meters to
yang
100 cubic meters
teregistrasi
that are
dalam
registered
program
within
Indonesia
the
Biogas Rumah
Indonesia
gitu ya.
domestic biogas program.
Salah satu yang selain biogas atau
Aside
biodigester
from
yang dibangun oleh
biogas or
BRU,
biodigesters that are
selain memang
constructed by
mengkonversi energi
Biru,
yang sangat
which
bermanfaat bagi masyarakat,
converts
ada
energy
sisi
for
lain
the
yang
benefit
juga
of the
memiliki
public, there is
potensi untuk
another side
dimanfaatkan. Saya
for
tidak pernah dengar
potential of
bicara
use.
limbah biogas,
I never
karena jika
use
seseorang
biogas
melihat
waste
hal itu
because
sebagai limbah,
if we
maka
consider that as waste,
konotasi
then the
atau gambaran dari
connotation or
orang-orang melihat hal itu sebagai
perceptive of
limbah.
the
Tapi
public
saya
will see
biasanya
that as waste.
menyebutnya
But
adalah
usually
bioslurry.
I
Inilah
mention that
bioslurry
as
ini
the bioslurry,
dalam berbagai penelitian
wherein the seven
dan juga yang dilakukan
researches that have been
penelitian
conducted,
cukup panjang oleh
lengthy researches, if
memiliki
I may say,
potensi yang luar
we
biasa
have seen the
untuk dipakai oleh desa
extraordinary
ketika
benefit and
diaplikasikan
potential,
sebagai
no, when
limbah.
it is they are
Nah,
applied
dalam
or used.
pagi yang berbahagia ini,
And on this happy
kita juga sudah
occasion, we
memiliki 4
also have
pembicara yang
4
memiliki
speakers with us
kompetensi di
who are
bidangnya
competent
masing-masing,
in their
terutama
respective
dalam
fields,
bidang pengembangan
especially in the
pupuk atau
development
juga
of
pangan
fertilizers
organikan.
and
Em,
also organic food
untuk
development.
mempersingkat
To
waktu
make it
dan
short
juga untuk
and also
menyaksikan bagaimana
to
para pembicara, 4 pembicara yang
uh,
sudah
listen
sangat
to
siap
these
untuk
four speakers who
diskusinya,
are very ready with
saya
their
akan
presentations.
lanjut kepada
I am
pembicara
going to
pertama,
continue with our
yaitu Bapak
first
Daeng
speaker,
Nassa.
who is Bapak
Bapak
Daeng
Daeng Nassa
Nassa.
ini
Bapak
merupakan
Daeng
pemilik
Nassa
Rumah
is
Hijau
an
Denasa
owner
yang
of
ada di
Rumah Hijau
Makassar.
Denasa or Greenhouse
Dan
Denasa, which is
terlalu
located in
berlebihan kalau
Makassar.
saya menyebut
It
beliau
is
ini
exaggeration if I
merupakan
say that he
pahlawan
is a
edukasi
hero of
masyarakat urban
education
di
for
wilayah
the
Makassar, di mana
people in
beliau
the area of
mulai
Makassar,
2017
where he began
berkelompok
in
sudah mendirikan
2017
rumah Denasa ini
by
dan
giving
sudah banyak orang yang
education for
belajar
MSMEs, and
dari
there have been many
manfaat
people
daripada
who are learning about the
uh,
benefits of
penggunaan pupuk organik,
use of
misalnya,
organic
terus juga
fertilizers,
penggunaan atau juga
such as
apa
the
namanya
use
pemberdayaan dan juga
and empowerment, as well as the
seperti
empowerment
pengaplikasian tanaman lokal
or
untuk pangan dan lain-lain. Nah,
application of
ini
local
memang sangat menarik
plants
kita
and
dengar.
others. And this
Mari
is
kita
going to be a
persilakan
very
pembicara
interesting
pertama,
presentation. And so
Bapak
I
Daeng
would
Nasa
welcome Bapak
pemilik
Daeng
Rumah
Nasa as
Hijau
our
Denasa.
first speaker, as owner of Rumah Hijau Denasa.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Peace be
Terima
upon you
kasih
all.
Kang
Thank
Doni.
you very
Suara
much,
saya kedengaran
Johnny.
ya, Kang?
Can you hear me clearly?
Kedengaran Pak, cukup
Yes,
lancar.
we can hear you
Kedengaran ya?
very well. So
Baik,
please go ahead.
selamat siang, salam
Good
sejahtera untuk kita semua.
afternoon. Please be upon
eh,
us all.
para hadirin. Ya,
Participants.
jadi Rumah Hijau Nasa kami inisiasi 2007 silam sebagai unit konservasi
Rumah
dan
Denasa
edukasi.
we
Jadi
was
sebagai
established
konservasi
as the
Rumah Hijau Denasa
conservation and education
menyelamatkan keanekaragaman hayati
forum
khususnya tumbuhan
for the
flora,
conservation
endemik dan
of
langka
biodiversity and rare and endemic plants. So we replanted plants that were almost
yang paling menarik
uh,
sebenarnya salah satunya ada rumah jenazah itu salah satunya adalah
gone. One
kami
the most
menyelamatkan
interesting thing
kelestarian
was that
tanaman dari perspektif
we
ekonomi
also had to
perkebunan.
look up the history
Jadi
or the stories
rumah jenazah
behind every
rumah
plant.
impian kami
Our
dari
house
awal
is
2003
our
kami
greenhouse.
dirikan,
We
tapi
established it in
belum diterima ya oleh
2007, but at
sekeluarga.
that time it
Jadi
was not
di
accepted by
slide
the
kedua tadi itu
family.
saya
So
menyampaikan bahwa
on the
di
second
slide
side,
kedua
in the
salah
second
satu
slide,
legacy
uh,
kami bisa
one of
dikatakan
our
adalah
legacies that was
kami
finally
membuat
accepted by
biogas.
the family
Ya, karena
was
kami punya
our
peternakan, ada
production of
peternakan
biogas. We
sapi,
have
beberapa
a
ekor,
husbandry
dan
cow of
selama puluhan tahun
cows,
itu belum pernah
and for decades
dimanfaatkan kandungannya, hanya sebagai pupuk
we
saja
never used
organik yang
the
dikelola
waste
dengan baik
only
oleh
as
kami.
organic fertilizer.
Kemudian
It was not
kami buat
well
biogas
processed
dari
at the
biogas
time,
itu,
so we produced
keluarga kami
biogas, and the family
berpikir
was
ternyata
surprised. And then they finally
dari
believed
sapi itu bisa
that
jadi gas, bisa
the cow
menghasilkan
dung could
bahan bakar.
become gas
Kemudian
and can
kami
produce
ceritakan bahwa bahan bakarnya ini
fuel. And we told
ramah
them that
lingkungan,
this
dan
fuel is
bukan hanya ramah, tapi
environment
sebenarnya
friendly, not
menyelamatkan,
only
karena
friendly, but it is
ketika
also saving the
cow
environment
jatuh, sapi
uh,
jatuh itu buangan
because
sapi
when
itu dia
the
melepaskan
cow
gas.
dung
Gas itu kalau tidak
falls to
dibuangkan
the
dia
ground,
mungkin
it releases
lepasnya ke
gases
alam,
and it,
ke angkasa, ke
it uh,
atmosfer, dan itu berbahaya untuk
rises to
keberlanjutan
the atmosphere, and
peternakan.
that is
Kemudian
dangerous for
dengan
our
selanjutnya
environment. And
tanpa kami duga, karena kami hanya
subsequently,
berjalan saja seperti
because
mimpi kami ingin
we just
menyelamatkan keanekaragaman hayati, tapi prosesnya memang sudah
operated
jalan
as
sejak awal.
usual, but
Tapi belakangan ya
but
sejak 2014
since
itu ternyata
2014
kami dikunjungi,
we had received a visit
oleh orang sekitar saja, atau mungkin
by
orang yang kami
where
panggil
in the
atau
past it
kerabat
was
kita,
only the
dan itu
surrounding
kemudian
communities
berkembang
that would
menjadi corporate organization sekolah,
visit us, but then
sekolah-sekolah yang di Makassar itu
schools
datang
and
belajar ke rumah
corporations
jenazah
came
untuk
to
retreat
visit us and to
dua
learn
hari
from
tiga
us, having field
studi
trips
wisatanya atau
and they had study tours and
kunjungan belajarnya itu ke rumah hijau Nassa.
to
Kami
the Rumah
menjadikan bahwa oh ini
Nasa.
punya peluang
So
lebih
we
besar,
saw the
karena rumah
great
hijau Nassa itu
potential
berada
there
di
because
Kabupaten
this
Goa, 20
was
km
our
ke
house
arah
is
selatan
located
Kota
in
Makassar,
Kabupaten
dan itu
Goa
posisi pertengahan
near
antara desa dengan
Makassar, and
kota.
it is between the
Ketika kami
rural
mengajak
area and the urban
pengunjung
area.
rumah hijau Nassa
When the
belajar, ini
urban
kesempatan bagi kami untuk melakukan edukasi
people
yang lebih
started coming to
luas
visit,
dan
we
langsung
learned
di
that
tempat
there was
kami.
a great
Jadi
potential for us to
kami lebih intensif lagi. Jadi
expand our
ya,
education
jadi
effort. So
memperkenalkan tentang
then
keanekaragaman
we
hayati
introduced
yang
the
kemudian kami
biodiversity in
mengajarkan
the
mereka
area.
tentang
We
pertanian
taught
dan
them about
peternakan. Jadi
farming and
mereka berinteraksi langsung
husbandry,
dengan
and
ternaknya,
they
kami kelola
interacted
bisnisnya
directly with
sapi,
our
kami juga punya beberapa
cow,
beberapa
with our animals, cows.
tiga
We had
unggas,
sheep
jenis
once,
unggas,
and we had
dan sekarang
beef
punya lebah.
also. And
Jadi
now we
kami
have our own valley.
bersapi itu yang paling intensif
So
karena mereka senang sekali ya,
we are most
baik sapi
intensively
maupun kandang yang
managing
yang
the
masih
cows.
apa ya,
They are very happy
muda,
with that.
itu kami ajarkan mereka tentang apa
We
sih yang
teach
bisa
them about
dimanfaatkan atau didapat dari sapi itu,
what benefits
selain
can
daging yang
be
tentu saja karena mereka paham tentang
gotten
daging.
from
Jadi kami cerita kalau tentang kulit,
cows
mereka paham,
own,
oh
aside from
mereka cerita
the
kulitnya untuk apa dan segala macam.
beef,
Tapi ketika
from
sampai
the
kepada
skin. But when we
buangannya ya,
talk
kepada
them
rumputnya
about
itu mereka biasanya
the
hanya
cow
menganggapnya
dung,
sebagai
they
pupuk
usually say
saja
that
ya, pupuk saja.
can only be used as
Tapi kami
fertilizer.
ceritakan bahwa itu
And
bisa
then
menjadi
we
gas,
told
kenapa
them
mereka
that
punya
it
spesimen,
can
punya
be turned
contoh,
into
punya
gas,
diagester
and
sederhana
we had a
pada
simple
pihak
digester to show
biogas.
them on
Kami
the site
sampaikan bahwa
that produce
ketika sapi
biogas,
itu terus
and
bisa
we
dijadikan
told
sebagai
them
bahan
that cow
bakar
dung could be used as
energi,
fuel for as
apa ya, ramah
energy,
lingkungan,
which is
dan bisa jadi
environment friendly. And
semakin
that
besar
was
ya
then when their
benefitnya.
minds were
Selalu saja
open
ya salah satu
to
pesannya
this
dari rumah jenazah itu
potential.
adalah mereka bisa
So
paham dan bisa
they
melihat langsung
were able to
dan merasakan
understand because they saw it directly, and they
apa
felt
yang
the
kami
benefit
lakukan
of
dan
what
apa yang
we were
ingin
doing
mereka
and what we
ketahui
wanted
dan
them to
laksanakan
know and to
gitu.
also
Jadi itu
implement.
kemudian kami ajarkan mereka tentang
So we
pakan.
taught
Jadi
them,
kami memang menggunakan
and we used
menggunakan rumen sapi kami sebagai pupuk,
our
karena
cow dung as
luas kami rumah hijau
fertilizer
Nasa itu area intinya
because
itu kurang lebih
our area
1 hektar,
covered
dan sekarang kita
around
menguasai
100
2,5
hectares, and now we
7
have
hektar. Jadi sekarang ini
2.7
area
hectares
intinya itu
of rice
terkoneksi,
fields.
yang terkoneksi ya, yang
So
terhubung itu ada kurang lebih 3 hektar
we have
lebih,
around
tapi luasan
more than
seluruhnya itu ada
3
kurang lebih
hectares, but the
hampir
overall
6
area is
hektar
about
rumah hijau
almost
Nasa
6 hectares
yang kami
of the
kelola.
rumah
Dan
Nasa.
kami punya
And
sapi kurang
we
lebih
have
ada
around
40 individu
40 individual cows. All of them are mostly females, for because we have them for breeding, and we use that their droppings as fertilizer. So that was the theme that we taught them about husbandry and farm animals and fertilizers, and we taught them about organic fertilizers. And the feed that we gave to the animals were locally sourced. So we have this regulation that if you come to our area, you have to bring local food. You cannot bring anything that is sourced from outside of Sulawesi. And for us, our naturally sourced, our locally sourced food is natural without any chemical fertilizers. And we provided that for them when they come. We gave them food and fruits that we process ourselves. And in addition to that, this Rumah Nassa, before we managed that in 2007, used to be a mine for bricks, uh, and it was previously used to dispose of garbage. So we had to purify the area, and we relied on biodiversity. We used remedy by decreasing the number of floating plants, like some other forms of floating plants. So we have conservation area for aquatic plants, and for the soil, we relied on tall grasses and weeds and uh, roots that can absorb the toxic or waste from the mining activities in the past. And aside from introducing food to our visitors, we also talk, talk to them about the process of producing food, how rice is produced, so that that would give rise to their understanding on how it is to manage rice paddies, because the majority of the visitors don't have that education and they tend to waste their food. And that is unfortunate because one of the challenges in the future, including this globalization era and climate change, is that we might lack food sources and the population of human beings might multiply. And if we don't educate and say since the beginning and educate children to appreciate their food, this is going to be very dangerous in the future. So we teach them about planting rice, how to harvest them, and non-rice plants also. So we usually provide them with breakfast from locally sourced ingredients. So if you can see this, if you look at this picture, all our visitors are provided with food that is locally sourced, including the water that they drank. We produce water ourselves. We and in our site, we also provide literation for them. So all this actually is part of our literation effort, literacy effort, and we encourage all the visitors to understand, to read, to get involved or actively participate in the sustainability of our biodiversity, reintroduce our plants and not only rely on one type of plant. And we encourage them to appreciate food. So th- their visit to us is to uh, make them meet the farmers so then they can appreciate each other, because usually urban dwellers only eat the rice or any other food produced by farmers or those living in this uh, surrounding areas, but they don't really know who planted their food. And the planters also don't, because when they don't consume their food, they just use pesticides, they use chemicals. So that's what they do because they think that, well, they're not going to eat it anyway. So that is why we get them to meet each other, to appreciate each other, so that there is communication established, and then so that they can improve the interaction between them. We also say the planting culture, how to culture, how to do the calculation, uh, farming methodologies, and so on. We teach them that, although some of those methods are no longer used because we use the calendar system nowadays, or the system that is uh, used by the regional office for agriculture and the use of water and so. But we document all of this, and this is important, and we teach the urban visitors about it. We have even visitors from 72 countries, and we teach all these visitors what we do there. So more or less, that is what we do. There are still a lot of things that we do, and the biggest challenge for us in this year is during this COVID-19 pandemic, we are being tested by this, and now we are innovating and trying to make virtual trips, which is live, using the Zoom application, and that can be accessed by previously uh, by people around Makassar. Nowadays, foreigners can even access that. Uh, Even educational institutions in Java, in Sumatra, and even overseas can access our Zoom virtual visits. And even some of us here may be even interested trying to learn about planting cultures and how to educate all elements of society about this, because this is one of the segments that we are involving. There are still many activities that we have. Thank you very much. That's it from me. Thank you, Jody, and thank you for all the participants. Let's keep conserving and encouraging organic farming. Thank you very much.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima
Thank you
kasih
very
kepada
much,
Pak Daeng
Pak
dan
Daeng
Nasa
down
atas
Denasa,
presentasinya yang
for your presentation,
sangat
which was really
apa namanya itu impresif ya.
very
Dalam arti
impressive in
kita
the
memang
sense that
membutuhkan
we
banyak sekali
do
orang-orang
actually
seperti
need a
Pak
lot
Daeng
of
ini yang
people who are
memang
like you,
menyentuh sisi edukasi
who is
daripada
focusing on this as
konsumen organik
educational
nantinya, tetapi
aspect
juga
of
Pak Daeng
the
Nasa ternyata
consumer
melakukan
organic
dalam
consumers,
ruang yang cukup
and
terbatas
which will
yang dimiliki
be
oleh Pak Daeng Nasa, tetapi ternyata
will be
sudah
done
mengundang
more
banyak sekali orang
eh,
untuk belajar ya.
which will
Bagaimana
extend
misalnya Pak Daeng Nasa
beyond what
melakukan
you
pembelajaran
previously started.
komprehensif dari
You are
mulai
carrying out comprehensive
sesuatu itu ditanam sampai
learning
sesuatu itu
from the time something
dimakan.
is planted
Dan
and
itu
to the
sebenarnya
time
yang
that it is being
memang generasi
consumed.
kita
So
butuhkan.
our
Generasi
generation, this
pangan
is what is
lokal,
needed by
generasi
the
pangan
next
sehat,
generation
generasi
on healthy
yang
food,
bisa menghargai
who can
pangan
appreciate
begitu, atau
the food that
pemeliharaan
they
pangan dalam
consume,
bahasa Daeng. Dan
or you
itu
mentioned
mungkin
to
sedikit komentar dari saya. Seirama dengan
about
Pak
the food.
Daeng, kita juga
And that is all from
memiliki
me.
salah
And
satu
aside
champion
from Pak Daeng, we have
petani muda
another champion, a
apa
farmer,
namanya berkualitas
a
begitu ya,
very
dan juga
qualified
petani
farmer
juara di Jawa Barat,
who is a champion
yaitu
in
Pak
West
Uus
Java, Pak
dari
Uus,
kelompok tani Taruna
from the
Mukti
Taruna
Kabupaten
Mukti
Bandung.
Farmers Group
Nah,
of the
sebagai sedikit
Bandung
informasi
district.
pengantar, Pak Uus ini
As an introduction,
merupakan
I
salah
would like to
satu
inform you that
penggerak
Pak Uus is
ekonomi
one of the
pupuk
economic
organik,
movers of
tapi
organic
juga salah satu
fertilizers,
penyelamat
and also one of the saviors of
limbah dari
waste
peternakan yang
from
masuk ke dalam
farms
Sungai Citarum.
that
Untuk informasi, Pak
used
Uus
to be
ini
discarded
mungkin
into the
jika
Citarum
beberapa
River. Pak
kelompok
Uus
petani
with
memiliki
has and several farmers groups were really
pupuk
frustrated
organik,
with
bahwa
the
ini adalah salah satu
processing
yang
of
kita
organic
Papua Barat
fertilizers.
yang bisa
He
berperan.
proved that
Saat
this market
ini per
could
bulannya itu
develop,
bisa sampai
and now
12 ton,
currently he can produce up to
12.000 ton,
12,000
12.000
tons
ton
of
untuk pemasarannya.
organic
Nah, untuk
fertilizers
lebih
for
jelasnya nanti kita
marketing.
dengarkan
And let us listen to
pemaparan dan
his
juga
presentation.
presentasi dari Pak Uus. Kami persilahkan.
Pak Uus, please go ahead.
Silakan Pak Uus.
Please go ahead, Pak Uus.
Sebentar. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum
Peace be
warahmatullahi
upon us all.
Barangkali suaranya sudah ada.
Can you hear my
Dengar
voice
sekali, Pak
clearly?
Uus.
Oh yes, we
Silakan.
can hear you very
Terima
clearly,
kasih,
so please go ahead.
bagi
Thank you
teman-teman yang
very
sudah
much
bergabung. Salam
to all
petani,
those who
salam
have
penjaga tatanan negara
participated.
Indonesia. Ini yang ingin saya sampaikan dalam kesempatan ini,
On this
terutama adalah
occasion, what I
kami
would like to
memberi
present
satu
to you
solusi
is a
penyelesaian masalah
solution to
pembuangan limbah
resolve
kotoran
matters
sapi
on the
ke sungai,
disposal of
terutama
cow
yang
dung
ada di
into the river, especially the Citarum
Perlu
River.
diketahui bahwa
What we
terutama
need to
permasalahan yang
know
dihadapi di
are the problems that are being
Kabupaten
faced
Bandung,
in the
terutama
district of
disebut dengan
Bandung
perah ya,
about the
khususnya
general
di Kecamatan
condition
Pasir
of
Jambu, Kabupaten Bandung,
cow
penduduknya
husbandry,
kalau ditinjau
especially in
dari
the
aspek
district of
estetika
Bandung,
wawasan lingkungan,
in on the aspect
tentu
of
masih
the
jauh dari
environment
harapan
and
kita semua,
aesthetics,
bahkan
which
cenderung
is of
masih
course far below what our
masih
expectations,
mencemari lingkungan.
and there's still pollution going on
Terus yang kedua,
towards the
masih ada
environment.
juga
The
permasalahan
second
di mana
problem is that
lapangan
there
kerja
is a need
disempitkan
for
dan
employment,
pengangguran
which
di
is
mana-mana.
increasing. There is so much
Nah, ini juga
unemployment, widespread
masih dialami
unemployment, and this is
di
something
Kecamatan
that is
Pasir
still
Jambu,
being
khususnya dan
experienced
Kabupaten Bandung
in
pada
the
umumnya.
sub-district of
Ada
Pasir
juga
Jambu
yang
and the
ketiga,
district
angka
of
kemiskinan yang
Bandung.
masih
The
tinggi, bahkan
poverty rate
berpotensi
as the
meningkat,
third factor is
terutama
also
di
very high and is even
masa-masa pandemi
increasing,
sekarang ini.
especially during
Kalau
this
saja kita
pandemic.
semua tidak
And
bisa
if
bersama-sama dalam
we
membangun
cannot all
perekonomian masyarakat.
uh, if we cannot
Tidak
come
kalah
together to
menariknya
develop
permasalahan yang
the
dihadapi,
economy,
yaitu
no less
kerusakan lingkungan masih
serious
dirasakan dampaknya oleh
is
kita
another
semua,
problem, which
seperti
is the
limbah tanaman
degradation to
yang
the
dibuang ke sungai,
environment,
sehingga
especially because
berpotensi sedimentasi atau
cow dung
yang
or
saya
cow
sering
waste
sampaikan adalah
form
sebagai penyebab
being
pendangkalan sungai yang
disposed
tidak
to
mengenal musim.
into the
Karena
rivers,
musim
and
hujan
this is
maupun musim
causing the
kemarau,
rivers to be
ketika itu dipakai sungai,
shallow,
dan itu akan
and
menyebabkan
this is
sedimentasi. Nah, ini
causing
kebetulan
sedimentation problems.
yang di Nah, ini kotoran sapi yang dibuang ke sungai.
This is
Ini ada
the
beberapa
cow dung that
potensi
is
yang
being
ternyata malah
disposed to the
dibuang,
rivers. This
terbuang
is actually
dengan
something with
sia-sia, malah
potential, but
mencemari
they just
lingkungan.
throw it
Ini
away,
sangat,
and
saya
it
sangat
causes
setuju dengan
environmental
Rumah
degradation.
Energi bahwa
So
di sini
our Rumah
potensi yang
Energy,
terbuang
we see that
diantaranya
there is the
potensi gas
potential
yang
here
bisa
for
dimanfaatkan
gas that can be used by
sebagai
the community
biogas, dan
as
itu sangat
biogas,
berguna
and
sekali bagi
it is
kehidupan
very
kita semua.
beneficial
Dan
for our
dari
lives.
biogas tersebut
And
juga
this
masih,
waste
saya setuju
from
dengan
biogas,
yang
I do
dikatakan Pak Doni
agree
tadi,
to what Pak Doni
bahwa
said,
ini bukan
that this
limbah,
is not
tapi ini masih
waste,
berpotensi
but this
bahan
is
baku
something that is
sumber
potential
ekonomi.
as
Di
raw
antaranya masih
material,
bisa
as an
dipakai untuk
energy, source of
makanan
economy.
cacing,
It
terus
can
yang
be
kedua
used to
sebagai bahan
feed
baku
for worms,
pelet,
or it
baik
can be
pelet
used
ikan
as
maupun pelet unggas
fish
ya.
pellets or
Ini
for
yang memang
poultry
harus
pellets.
kita
And this is something
lakukan dan
that
kita
we
manfaatkan.
need
Sebetulnya
to
masih banyak hal
undertake and take
yang dapat
advantage of.
dikerjakan
There are
di dalam
many
hal
other
seperti ini,
advantages
terutama
actually from
selama
this
ini yang
cow
sudah
dung.
digagas oleh Rumah Energi ya,
And that is
yang
what
memang
we
menjadi
have
pionir
initiated,
pemanfaatan
and
biogas
we are
untuk
the
kehidupan kita.
pioneers for the
Nah,
use
itu
of
kepada
biogas within
ini
our
komponen-komponen
community.
masyarakat
These are the
yang
components
kita
of society that
yang
we
kita berdayakan,
have
terutama
empowered,
upaya yang kita lakukan
especially in our
dengan cara
effort
mengolah
by
atau menanggulangi masalah tersebut dengan cara mengolah
overcoming the
limbah
problem
menjadi pupuk organik.
by processing
Langkah-langkah
waste
yang kita
to
lakukan
become
supaya
organic
kita mengetahui bahwa tidak
fertilizers.
kalah penting
And the measures that we have undertaken
kesadaran
is no
masyarakat
less important, which
dalam
is to
penanganan
raise
limbah-limbah
awareness
dari
of communities
pupuk organik melalui
to
pendidikan dan pelatihan. Dan
use
ini perjuangan yang
organic fertilizer
paling
through
besar
training
di sini
and
karena
counseling.
tidak
This is
mudah
our most major
meniadakan
activity
atau
because it's not easy
mengajak
to raise
kawan-kawan,
awareness
teman-teman peternak
or
yang
to
selama
make
ini sudah
our
terbiasa mengumpulkan sapinya ke sungai
farmers who
sehingga dengan
usually
kesadaran
dispose
dan
the
kita
cow
olah
dung into
menjadi
the
sesuatu
rivers
yang bernilai
uh,
manfaat baik ekonomis
to turn that
maupun
waste into
benefit
something
bagi
with economic value,
keberlangsungan
which
alam
will
sekitar.
bring benefit to
Yang
us
kedua,
and to
menggali
the
potensi
environment.
usaha untuk
The
dijadikan
second
suatu usaha
is
yang
to
memang menyerap tenaga
explore
kerja sebanyak
business
banyaknya.
potentials and
Nah,
to
itu yang
absorb
pertama
as
kita
many
lakukan
workers
ya.
as possible. That is what
Terus kita
we are
juga
doing.
mencoba
We are
meningkatkan
also
kemampuan
trying to
dalam hal
increase
pengelolaan
or
usaha
build the
dengan
capacity of business
membantu
management,
ataupun
but
menambah
through
pengetahuan
learning
setiap
sessions
stakeholder yang
or
ada
knowledge
di
sessions
dekat kita.
with all
Ya.
the
Dan itu juga
stakeholders who are
meningkatkan
around us.
partisipasi
This
kita
also will
menjaga sumber
also
daya manusia supaya terus
motivate
inovasi
us
dan
to
kreatif.
improve our
Itu harapan
human
yang memang
resources to be more
kita
innovative.
lakukan selama ini.
And that is what
Kita
we
juga
have been
berupaya
doing
mendorong
so far. We
kebijakan
are also
pemerintah
trying
berpihak
to
terhadap
push for
apa terhadap pemberdayaan masyarakat ya yang
empowerment of
memang
people from as
selama ini
through policies of the
sudah
government.
kita lakukan masing-masing tapi
We have
sinergitas
been
yang
doing
mungkin
this,
belum
but there has
maka dari
been a
itu
lack of synergy
sinergitas
in those efforts.
dalam
That
upaya
is
yang kita
why
lakukan
synergy in
secara
our efforts
berkelompok dan
is
terutama
something that is
dengan
absolutely
beberapa stakeholder yang
critical
ada
with
di masyarakat
a number
terutama
of
pemangku
stakeholders
kebijakan yang
because
memang
some decision makers or policy
harus kita
makers need to
sinergikan
be
dalam
invited to
kegiatan ini
synergy with
terutama
us in
dalam
these
penanganan
activities, especially
permasalahan-permasalahan
in
tadi
overcoming the
seperti
problems that
menjadi
we
bantuan
mentioned.
Pak dan
We
Ramil,
do
Pak
this with the
Kapolsek,
Camat, with
Pak
the Dan
Kapolres,
Ramil, with the
dan
Polsec,
juga
with the
pemerintah
Polres,
yang
and
ada
even
di
also with
eh,
the local government
wilayah Kabupaten Bandung.
within the district of Bandung.
Ini tujuan yang memang ingin kita capai
This
yaitu
is the
menjadi
objective that we would like to
apa
achieve, which
kelompok
is
usaha yang besar
to
dalam
become a
program-program
large
pemerintah berkelanjutan
business
dan
group
mengoptimalkan potensi
to
daerah sehingga
support the
mampu
government's
menciptakan
program for
keberlanjutannya, mampu
sustainability,
meningkatkan
to
perekonomian
absorb
masyarakat,
many
peduli lingkungan dan terlibat
workers,
dalam pemberdayaan.
care for the environment,
Itu
and empower the people.
cita-cita kita yang
That
sudah
is
kita capai
our
di Darmawan
dream
Mukti. Nah,
at
Darmawan
Taruna
Mukti juga
Mukti.
kita
Taruna
olah limbah
Mukti, when
ini tujuannya
processing waste, also have
pengolahan
the
limbah
following
peternak ini
objectives
dengan upaya-upaya yang diberikan.
through
Contohnya
efforts,
memberikan rangsangan
for
kepada masyarakat
example,
tentang potensi kotoran ternak,
encourage people on the potential
merawat
of
sapi perah
using,
yang memang belum
of taking
dimanfaatkan
advantage of
bagaimana
cow dung,
khususnya
which is still
masyarakat
very
Permana
uh,
kita ajak
not very
bersama-sama untuk
optimized in use, so that
yang
we
kedua
could use them
mengembangkan
together.
upaya
Secondly, is to
mengurangi
develop
pencemaran lingkungan dengan cara
to
memanfaatkan kotoran ternak
reduce
sapi tersebut dijadikan
pollution of the
bahan
environment by
lagi
using
atau menjadi
cow dung or
kompost
other
biogas yang menjadi
materials to
bermanfaat
become compost or
bagi
biogas, which
masyarakat
could
yang
be more
tentunya
beneficial
akan
for the
memakai
empowerment
biogas.
of the people and
Nah, yang
bring
ketiga
economic
mengembangkan
value. The
usaha
third is to
pemanfaatan
develop
kotoran sapi
businesses to
menjadi
use cow
produk
dung
bermanfaat
as a
seperti
beneficial
tumbuhan
product to
organik.
fulfill the need for organic fertilizers.
Manfaat atau hasil yang
The
ingin
benefits or the
dicapai dari
results that
pengolahan
we
limbah
would
ini
like
juga
to achieve through
tidak
this
kalah pentingnya yaitu
waste
dampak tenaga kerja
processing is
sekaligus
to,
menambah
of
nilai
course,
ekonomi
absorb
bagi
as
para
many
pekerja.
workers as possible to
Terkadang
provide
potensi
a
daerah untuk
better
dikembangkan menjadi suatu
economic
suasana yang
value
segar
to
dan
develop
pada
the
peningkatan
regional
ekonomi setempat.
potential, which will
Tidak kalah
result
pentingnya,
in macro
terutama untuk
economy
mengatasi
development,
pencemaran
and
dan
most of
penataan
all to
sungai,
overcome
walaupun
the
belum
problem
mencapai
of
harga limpahan yang
environment degradation
sehat.
and
Ada
sedimentation of the
beberapa dampak
rivers to make the environment more
kerugian
healthy.
dan
There are
kerugian
some
finansial.
impacts and benefits
Kalau
from
ditinjau dari beberapa aspek,
producing
diantaranya
compost.
ada aspek
Among others,
ekonomi,
there is
ada
the
aspek
economical
budaya, aspek
aspect,
lingkungan, dan aspek
empowerment,
lingkungan bagi anak-anak,
environment
dan juga tidak
aspect,
kalah pentingnya ada aspek sosial.
soil
Aspek
aspect,
ekonomi,
benefit, and also social
kita
aspect.
juga bisa
In terms of the economical aspect,
perlihatkan
we
ketika
can show
kita
this can be
selama
seen
ini sudah
when
memasarkan
we
kurang
have
lebih
already
sekitar
successfully marketed around 40,000
40
tons
ton raffinasi yang sudah
of cow dung that has been turned into organic fertilizer. And if we uh, calculate, we have already processed 80,000 tons of cow dung. You can imagine how large that is. If you calculate that based on the economical aspect, it is no less than no less than in 1 year we can generate around 9 billion. Some will be going to the farmers and others. The aspect for of empowerment of communities, we have absorbed no less than 240 people. And in terms of the environmental aspect, it is no less important too, because the indicators show us that no longer is cow dung disposed into the rivers for the Jihad Citarum Harum program, because Citarum River has to be free of any form of waste, including cow dung, and this has become a pride of an achievement, because no longer is cow dung thrown into the river, and this is very beneficial for the environment. The fourth aspect is the benefit for the soil. When we process the cow dung into organic fertilizer, the soil will be very fertile. So the benefit is not only the profit that we get, but also the soil itself. Not only human beings are getting a benefit from this. If it is arid land that we uh, give organic fertilizer, the soil will become fertile. The fifth aspect is a social aspect. From our profits, we put aside around 7%, and this has been done for many uh, times. We use the money to for repair houses of worship, and we have been able to purchase 1,800 meters of rice paddies, and we will use all the proceeds for social purposes. So, and that is how we are able to share this with all the communities in our surrounding areas. This is just an illustration up to 26. It is only up to 2016 because we don't have enough space. So 40,000 tons up to now is as much as we have already processed so far. This is one example of the waste that in the beginning, initially did not show any potential, but eventually uh, uh, we were able to see the economic potential where these young people, when they were expecting to get income, we were able to take them on as workers, and hopefully if the organic fertilizers from cow dung can go on, we don't need workers with certificates or diplomas. As long as they have the will and the intention to work hard, they will do well. And you can see here also how the potential that so far has partly been ignored by disposing them into the rivers or in other rivers in the area. And now it is becoming more beneficial because we can improve the condition of the soil, and we have received appreciation from the government of the district of Karawang and the director general, because the farmers who were using our fertilizers had a major increase in their harvest. So this is evidence of what was initially a problem, and then we processed it and it became a benefit. And that is it from us. I apologize for any lags. Thank you very much for listening.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Peace be upon you too.
Ya, terima kasih
Thank
banyak Pak
you.
Bos
very much,
atas
Pak Uus,
penyampaian
for your
materi
presentation
dan juga pengalaman mungkin
and
ada
sharing
pengalaman
of
yang
your
sangat
experience, which
menarik
is
untuk
very
kita
interesting
bahas
for
dan juga
us
sangat menarik
to
kita lihat. Saya berharap para
to
peserta
discuss
juga
and to observe. I
mempersiapkan
hope
apa
that
namanya
the
pertanyaan-pertanyaan
participants
terhadap
will prepare
materi
any
pembicara
questions
kita
they would like
yang
to
luar
pose to
biasa
our
besar
speakers who
daripada
are
pengalaman,
really
besar daripada
very
perbincangan
experienced.
begitu ya. Jadi
Uh,
yang saya catat dari
from what I have
posisi Pak Uus
observed
ini
on
adalah
what Pak Uus has presented
bagaimana beliau
is that how
bisa
he
memberikan kontribusi
was
positif
able
dari
to
hal usaha
provide
yang dilakukan.
positive
Bukan hanya
contribution from
terhadap
his business not
ekonomi,
only
lingkungan,
towards
tetapi
the
juga
economy and
termasuk
the
alam
environment,
begitu ya.
but also for the
Bagaimana misalnya dia
sustainability of the
diaplikasikan
of nature,
hasil
how the
meningkatkan
particular
produktivitas
fertilizers
dan
he
juga
produced
kesehatan daripada
was
ikan
able to
begitu.
increase
Tapi di sisi lain
activity and
adalah
welfare.
strategi yang dilakukan
On the
oleh
other
Pak
side,
Uus
it is
di
also
mana
interesting
misalnya
that the
mereka
strategy that Pak Uus
atau
used
Pak Uus bersama kawan-kawan
with
ini
his
bukan hanya
colleagues
ke
were
tataran
campaigning
bawah, tetapi juga melakukan advokasi
and
kepada para
also
policy maker
advocating to
dan
the
saat ini yang
policymakers.
saya ketahui secara langsung
And
memang banyak
what I
sekali
know
teman-teman
directly is that there have
vice
been
dirjenan
many
dari pusat maupun
director
daerah,
generals at the
kabupaten dan
national
lain-lain
or
yang
the
mewakili
regional
saat ini dipercaya untuk
levels
pengelolaan pupuk
has
organik hijau
entrusted
baru
Pak
oleh
Uus to
Dinas Pertanian
process
Pangan dan Kebudayaan.
organic fertilizers.
Menarik sekali.
That is very
Mudah-mudahan
interesting.
teman-teman
And
semua yang hadir
hopefully
bersama
all of
saya
you who are
mendengarkan
here
ya.
will have
Kita
questions
akan
to
lanjut
pose to
kepada
them.
pembicara yang
And we are now
sama-sama
going
juga
to
besar
another speaker
berpengalaman dan juga
who is
memiliki
also
rekod panjang
very
dalam
experienced with
pembinaan
a
peternak dan
lengthy
juga
experience in
petani begitu. Kalau
uh,
pembicara sebelumnya ini berasal dari community
assisting
base, yang
farmers
ini pembicara
and
ketiga ini campuran antara
stakeholders.
community base dan
This
juga
is
korporatif. Ini
using
berasal
a
dari
method that is
koperasi
based community based and
um,
corporate based approach.
ini berasal dari koperasi KUD Sumber Makmur Ngantang
And
Jawa
he is
Timur.
from the KUD Sumber
Tapi
Makmur
orang yang
Cooperative in East Java,
mempresentasikan
where he's
bagaimana
going to be giving us a presentation
komponen
on the
tulang kembali
components
KUD Sumber Makmur ini merupakan
because he is
unitas
also
dari
the partner of
BSI sehingga
biogas uh,
berusaha meningkatkan kapasitasnya dalam
developers
hal
from Rumah
fasilitasi
Energy and
bioseluri, kampanye penggunaan pupuk
how they campaign for
petani,
using
ternak-ternak ini dan
bioslurry
tentunya
because
selain itu dari
usually
peternak juga banyak
farmers
yang
are you very
menggunakan
diligent workers and they are also
kampanye pupuk mandiri dan juga mengambil peran dalam
so they have campaigns on
mengatasi kesulitan
using
petani
fertilizers
untuk
and how to
memproduksi
facilitate
hasil paparan.
the use
Kepada
of bioslurry
penulis
on the ground.
dari koperasi Sumber Makmur
Makmur,
saya persilahkan.
please go ahead.
Baik, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Please be upon our song.
Apakah bisa mendengar suara saya?
Can you hear my voice clearly?
Bagus Pak.
Bagus Pak, bagus, bagus, Pak. Bagus.
Ya, cukup jelas.
Terima kasih. Terima kasih.
Thank you
kami
very much
moderator yang telah diberikan waktu
for
kepada
the
saya.
moderator who has given me this time to speak. In the beginning,
Ingin saya sampaikan
what I
adalah,
wanted to present here was about the independence of fertilizer. Why is it important? First of all, since 2010, we have been working with high phos and then other NDEF and for domestic biogas. And we have constructed 1,508 biodigesters. Since 2010, we have already started campaigning to the breeders on the use of bioslurry. So I'm going to give you a brief presentation on what is the benefit of bioslurry. In our language, we use biogas waste. So first of all, according to the UCPA, bioslurry is different from animal dung. The difference is that animal dung or cow dung still contains a bit of gas that can actually be uh, eliminated by drying out the dung. So bioslurry is for treatment of soil. First of all, for land soil that has been polluted by fossil fuel and or, uh, preservatives and polychlorinating. So the bioslurry is functions as soil filter. It does not contaminate the pH of the soil. So the key is in the pH of the soil itself.
Slide berikutnya. Sedikit
A little information regarding the comparison of bioslurry, that the organic content is around 39.90%, while for fertilizer organic, which is in this kind, in this case, has to have at least 15%. And for the paper C per enya is 24.78 in bioslurry. For organic fertilizers is 15 to 20%. The pH of solid bioslurry is 6.5, while for organic fertilizer is 4 to 0.9. We know that 6.5 to 7 is the pH neutral, where the plants, where the soil can absorb, where the plant can absorb the nutrients from the soil. So this is the content of bioslurry compared to chemical fertilizers. We know there is chemical fertilizer A, B, and C. There are many in the market. For example, C, they are already reducing the content of hydrogen in their fertilizer, and phosphate. There's very high difference. Bioslurry is 1.23% compared to fertilizer A, which is 6%. For calcium, 0.43 in bioslurry and others. Maybe all of you understand how pH is related to phosphate in this case. Next. This is about the pH for the soil of acid. That is the content of acid, which means there's a lot of toxicity in the soil. And for neutral is 6 to 7, and above that 8 to 14, and for pK and magnesium cannot be absorbed by the soil in that case. Now we are talking about a study that was conducted by a number of universities. I took this from the University of Pattimura. Some research references is almost all the same, but I took the sample from Pattimura. Let's see the original pH of the soil is 5.66, and then we added 150 grams of chemical fertilizer. The soil pH reduces to 5.47. If we add another 300 grams, it decreases to 5.44. If we add 450 grams, it decreases to 5.30. When we use animal fertilizers from 5.66, when we give it 3,000 grams or 3 kilos of animal fertilizers, it increases to 5.83. And when we add or we give 6,000 grams or 6 kilos, it becomes 6.33. Let's show this next slide. And we're now going to be talking about dose of with a ratio of 5:3 to 2 for chemical fertilizers for 2 processes of planting, which is 5:3:2, which is the recommendation. 5 organic, 3 chemical A and two chemical B. The comparison between bioslurry and the others for chemical A, it has to be the same as the content of slurry. I'm sorry, the sound is very disturbing and I cannot hear clearly what the person is saying.
Sudah? Cek.
Suara mendengungnya masih agak kencang. Apakah seperti backsound atau apa? Apakah teman-teman yang hadir semua juga
Do all
mendengarkan?
of you hear the sound that is very distracting? Yes.
Halo, cek cek.
Ya.
Apa masih?
Can you still hear the feedback? It's getting louder.
Apa boleh dicoba tanpa headset mungkin, Pak?
Can you try not using the headset, please?
Nah, sekarang sudah bagus, Pak, sekarang, Pak. Boleh
Now it's
dilanjut, Pak.
much better, so please continue. I apologize.
Ya, bagus, Pak.
Yes, it's good now. Please go ahead.
Saya lanjutkan perbandingan bioslurry.
So I'm going to continue with the comparison of bioslurry with the same chemical A fertilizer, which is from 992 to 31.73. For chemical B, it's 1,660. So the total comparison between organic and slurry within one use and one application of fertilizer needs 1,000 kilograms, while for slurry is only 5,225 kilograms. That is why organic fertilizer or bioslurry would need more and use compared to chemical fertilizers because of this comparison.
Slide berikutnya.
Please show the next slide.
Kita bicara soal produksi bioslurry.
Let's talk about the production of bioslurry. Every biogas reactors will produce around 15 to 25 liters of bioslurry per day, with the assumption that 1 liter with a ratio of 2.27 kilogram. In view of the need of fertilizer, which was 5,025, ultimately a breeder will need 74 days to collect bioslurry to be able to achieve 5,025 kilograms. That is a lengthy period of time from during planting time to produce bioslurry at 5,025 kilograms. This is something that we have already campaigned to the breeders and farmers since a long time ago, which was in 2011 and 2012, because we have a spraying program for the land for bioslurry after some number of fields in Ngantang. We transported the bioslurry to the field, but during the course of time, because of our location in the sub-district of Ngantang, which is located in the mountains, we found it difficult to reach the lands that were located in the mountainous areas. So we were unable to reach the breeders or farm lands, which very narrow roads where our vehicles could not access. So beginning from 2013, we started discussing processing of bioslurry. Aside from campaigning then to the farmers and the breeders on what bioslurry was, what it contained, and through several pilot projects of which we had around 9, we have 9 lands of the farmers and breeders that we used as pilot plots or dam plots. And once we even rented several lands to be used
Ketika
as dam plots
di
for
masa ini
bioslurry.
pengolahan
And
ini
during the
kenapa kita bicara
processing,
pengolahan? Karena
why did we focus on
kita sadar
processing?
bahwa selain
Because we
masih
realized
selain
that
masih
aside from
KBD atau
being
koperasi
independent,
usaha
the
bersama, jadi ketika
village
semakin sulit
cooperatives
itu
are collective
semakin
businesses. So
kita harapkan
when
di
the
petani ini
independence
itu
of the breeders and the
masih
farmers
sulit dicapai
was still
sendiri,
difficult to
maka kita ajak
achieve,
bersama-sama. Ayo
so
kita
we uh,
sama-sama membangun
invited them to work together to
koperasi
develop
dalam
a
artian bahwa
cooperative,
bagaimana kita bicara soal lingkungan, bagaimana kita
and
bicara
we
soal
discussed the
profit
environment, the
dengan
profit
pengolahan
and
seperti
benefits
itu.
of
Akhirnya kan
processing bioslurry.
beberapa
Ultimately,
kadang-kadang beberapa peternak
a number
ataupun
of breeders
pemilik biogas, pemilik
or
reaktor biogas
owners of
yang
biogas reactors
eh,
who
reaktor biogasnya dapat kita jangkau, itu
were
kita
we
ambil
were able
kita
to
ambil
reach. We
bioslurinya, kemudian kita
collected
olah
their
setelah
bioslurry. We
pengambilan itu kan
processed
artinya
that
ada sebuah
bioslurry.
transaksi,
That
kemudian kita olah
collecting of bioslurry, of
itu
course,
berjalan
was done
dengan
through
menyebar dan itu
transaction,
tentu
and
dari
this has been going
ketersediaan
on and
biogas
is still
yang
going on to
mungkin tidak
today.
sebesar di
Our
daerah
production may
lain
not
tetapi
be as large
selama
as
ini
what
masih
Pak Uus
berfungsi,
has because we are still
teman-teman
focusing
eh,
on
peternak yang memiliki biosluri
our
di
breeder
sini
friends who still have home
yang
biogas, who still use
kita
home biogas.
konsentrasikan
So
adalah
our
selain produksi,
concentration
juga
is,
kita
aside
konsentrasikan
from
terhadap
production, is also
hulu-hulu
on
tadi.
the environment.
Sebagaimana kita tahu
As we all
di Ngantang
know,
sendiri sebenarnya ada
in
proyek Mimi
Ngantang,
Sorejo.
we
Mimi
have
Sorejo
a
ini
dam, the
pada
Syahrudi
saat
Dam.
program biogas
Before the biogas
pertumbuhannya
program, the
sangat luar biasa.
sedimentation was
Nah,
very
tetapi
high.
setelah ada
But
biogas
after
ada
the
pengurangan
biogas
sekitar 24%,
was carried out
24%
there was a
gas
reduction of
yang disebabkan oleh
24% of sedimentation caused,
kotoran-kotoran sapi perah.
which was caused
Itu
by
soal
cow
lingkungan.
dung
Nah,
waste.
kemudian
That is about the
bagaimana
environment.
kita ke depan?
And in the
Pertama,
future, what would we
eh,
be
selama
doing?
ini
First of all,
yang sudah kita lakukan soal
what we
penyemprotan
have
tanaman
done
kan
about
masih jalan. Cuman
spraying of
hanya ada
fertilizer is
beberapa
still going on,
segmen yang kita
but
kurangi,
there
yakni
are some
penyemprotan
segments that we are reducing,
untuk
which
orang lain
is
maksudnya untuk
for
petani-petani
other
lain
people.
kita membeli
We
biosluri dari
purchase
peternak,
the
kemudian kita
bioslurry
berikan kepada
from
orang
the
lain.
breeders and
Akan
then we
tetapi
spray that on other
peternak yang
people's
memiliki
lands,
sisa
and that is
sisa
what we are
slurry
reducing.
kita
But
sembunyikan
the
di
breeders
perbatasan
who
yang
own the
jalan.
slurry, we
Kemudian yang
would
kedua,
spray that near
soal
the
metode
road in of their
pengolahan
farms.
biosluri,
For processing
Pak
of
Khairi tadi
bioslurry,
ya siap.
Mohon maaf,
Pak
kembali
Muklis, I'm
lagi
sorry. Can you please make it
dipersingkat
brief
mungkin 1 menit
because you only have
resumé
around
dari
1 minute
barangkali.
yet
Siap, siap.
left? Okay, I'll do that.
Baik,
So,
terakhir
last of all,
terakhir bahwasanya selain selain biosluri
aside from
selain biosluri kering ini dalam atau
dry
biosluri rumah ini,
bioslurry
kita
or
juga tetap mengharapkan
crumbly bioslurry,
ada semacam
we are also
partisipasi bantu oleh
hoping,
YRI dan lain
aside
sebagainya.
from being assisted by YRE,
Ada apa ya?
we are
Ada
also
semacam
hoping
feedback
that
dari
we
petani
could
atau
get
para
some
peternak
feedback from the breeders and the
bagaimana
farmers
nanti kita bisa
as
bekerjasama
to
kembali karena
how
sejauh
we can
ini
keep working
beberapa
together
komunitas itu
because
kan
some
ada
of
yang
the farmers and the breeders
sudah mulai
have
ngumpet,
already
sudah
begun
mulai kembali lagi ke sini setelah ada beberapa waktu
to
kemarin
come
ada
back
pernaan
to their
gara-gara COVID itu tadi. Mungkin
old waste
itu
because of the lack of fertilizers on the market. So that's it from me.
terima kasih
Thank
atas
you.
waktunya.
Thank you for your
Wassalamualaikum
time.
warahmatullahi
Peace be upon us
wabarakatuh.
all.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih banyak Pak
Thank you very
Muklis.
much, Pak
Dan
Muklis.
alhamdulillah dalam
And thankfully,
slide Pak Muklis ini
your
menunjukkan
slide from
bahwa
your
Pak
slides
Muklis
have shown
memang
us that
bisa memberikan pengetahuan terhadap kita semua
you are
tentang
able
apa
to share
kelebihan
your
dan
knowledge with
konsekuensi
us on
pemakaian
the advantages of
selain
bioslurry
itu
compared to other forms
ada
of
beberapa
fertilizers.
pertanyaan juga dari
But what is
rekan-rekan
also
media.
interesting
Muklis
from
akan
your
memberikan
presentation
kepada
is
Pak Muklis
how you
syarat yang
campaign,
juga
how
memang
you
dari
carry out
regulasi itu
campaigns to your
dibuat
communities and
dengan
your members of the cooperatives on independence in using their own fertilizers, because based on my experience on working on the ground, although there are many excellent features of the efforts, sometimes the community find it hard to accept the use of bioslurry. And what is interesting or unique about your cooperative is developing the business that you have in your members have, and using and that you focus on bioslurry as a potential for benefits or to have and with promising profits for your members. That is very interesting for all, and for all the speakers. I think everybody already has questions for the speakers. But before we go into discussion session, we'll be listening to one more speaker who has a lot of experience in the corporation sector related to farming. He is Abdullah Hadiansyah as the general manager of PT Ken Jose about Holland. He's going to be speaking about Hollanda Sejahtera. He's going to be discussing or talking to us about how PT Ken Jose can, as a producer of uh, quality fertilizers, he is going to share with us his experience on the potential of organic food. We were talking about fertilizers. Now we're going to be talking about organic food, what the potentials are for export, for example. Can Jose, because their products are organic, what is the absorption in the market? Because once a product has the label of organic, so they have to follow all the procedures on organic products. And now I would like to invite Bapak Hadiansa to give his presentation.
Baik, terima kasih Pak Doni. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Peace be upon us all.
Salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Pada kesempatan ini izinkan saya untuk menyampaikan terkait
Please
dengan
allow me to talk about the use of organic fertilizer.
bicara mengenai program
In the past, the previous slide presentations, we were talking about the producing of
termasuk
organic fertilizers. Our company is one of the users of organic fertilizers used in the process of planting potatoes, and we were in partnership with the farmers. Next.
Ya, jadi ini sedikit mengenai
Just a little bit about the organic fertilizer. I think you are more knowledgeable on this topic. So we will continue with the next slide.
baik secara umum
In general,
tentunya tahu bahwa di dalam proses budidaya
in the
pupuk organik ya, itu terutama untuk komoditi hortikultura, salah satu penggunaan pupuk yang paling banyak
one of the most used fertilizer is organic fertilizer. Some are generally used by the farmers, or green fertilizer, bio fertilizer, and so on. But not all farmers are familiar with all the types of fertilizers, because some of are hard to get. The most generally used is cow animal fertilizers and liquid fertilizers and so.
Ya, jadi kalau kita bicara tadi juga pemerintah sebelumnya sudah menyampaikan apa sih kelebihan pupuk organik.
What is the benefit? What is the advantage of organic fertilizer? Well, it's cheaper than a chemical fertilizers. It has better nutrients and will improve the structure of the soil because of its slow release nature, and in the long term it is very much needed by the plants. And if we compare that to chemical fertilizers, the macro elements are relatively lower, and the contents of the ammonia content is that is quite high. But when used correctly, it can help improve the soil. But when it is not correctly processed, why is because organic fertilizer comes from cow dung or animal dung, there may be some remaining residues of what they eat, and this can contaminate the plants. So it depends on the process that has to be done correctly. And then let's go back to the potatoes.
So in general, there are 5 patterns that we observe on the field that most of the farmers, especially for horti, so this is basically the mandatory fertilizer that utilized before they conduct planting process. So in general, so fertilizer can stand by themselves, so it needs to be mixed with non-organic fertilizer. So the first one is from the natural fertilizer as the best one, and then we add it as with the non-organic fertilizer, and also we need to add it liquid fertilizer. And the third one for compost and organic fertilizer become the baseline, and number 4 is terasa fertilizer and non-organic fertilizer as the basic, and the full organic one. So when we are talking about organic product, so we need to be organic starting from the start process, and also the land history that being implemented with organic product. Uh, there are some requirements to those plants. So for the fertilizer, usually that being utilized is from the chicken dung and also lamb or goat dung.
Iya.
So
Ini terkait dengan
this is related with the dosage of organic fertilizer dosage that being utilized in potato planting, and for the planting seeds and the consumption potato. Majority is being utilized by the farmer, and the type is from the animal dung or chicken dung. For potato seed, basically the farmers use their plankton, and then for the potato that being consumed is bigger. So then in terms of number, more or less is around 3 to 70% of total cost. And if for the fertilizer request, especially for organic fertilizer, it's very unique because if you see the highland area, so during the plantation session, you can see the area where the area being spread. They spread the fertilizer in the bulk, and the number of bulk would be like 1,000. Next slide.
Ya, jadi kalau misalkan
So,
saya gunakan data
if I use the UPS data 2018, I will only focusing on one community because that's our competency regarding the vegetables potato type. So the PPS data stated that the coverage planting in Indonesia is 86,000 hectare per annually. So if the fertilizer utilization is basically 10 ton for the manure, so it's going to up to 1,000 and 8,000 tons for manure. So like Pak Uus, the demand is really high. So his capability to supply is up to 1,000 ton. It's still possible because the need is actually bigger from that point. So the potential for production and the business from this organic fertilizer is amazing. And the utilization has been mentioned that there are many economic aspects, environment aspect in terms of utilization that are quite big actually.
Ya, ini adalah
So
perbandingan
this is the comparison of composition of some organic fertilizer that come from animal dung, like chicken, cow, and compost. And in general, why the farmers, especially in West Java, prefer to utilize chicken dung. From our observation, we found out that regarding accessibility, it's easy to transport this fertilizer to the field because we know when we talk about the horticulation plant, they plant it on the high land and sometimes it's difficult to be accessed. It's not easy to be accessed like cars or pickup cars, so they need a motorcycle. That's why, and then the chicken dung is lighter because usually mix it with scum and compost or cow dung. And this is the ingredient for the manure from the producer. Also, the information is really important to be shared to the consumer because the consumer will see the total need and also see the ingredients so they can see their total need. Next slide.
Ya, jadi kalau ini
so this is the phase for absorption of potato plant. So hara absorption is very important because so the time and how to do fertilization is also give impact. So there are two information regarding hara absorption. The most one is at the age of 34 to 35 days age. And then the hara absorption by the potato is optimum on 45 to 60 days, where it will be absorbed properly at 60 to 70 days.
Ya, jadi ini adalah
this is the table in one of the peak cycles. This is the hara that can be absorbed by the plant. Is these are the number 200 and it's 200 kilogram, P is 37.5, and K is 33.75, and F is 27.5. This is one phase. So in the plantation total cycles,
ya, jadi apa tantangannya bagi para
what are the challenges? So for the producer of fertilizer, both organic and non-organic, in my opinion, is how the producer can collaborate because each of them has their own benefit, their own leverage in terms of competitiveness. So both for the hara contain and also the impact to the environment, to the ground, to the soil, and so on and so forth. So they need to be able to collaborate, to conduct research, to achieve the complete fertilizer, the complete ingredient of fertilizer that so and also can be specific to each plant, then the farmer also can be very feel helpful, and also socialization campaign, and also what is important that the price that will be sell on the market, and we need to provide added value for the organic product, that in general the organic product still being still considered that in terms of yield is still lower compared to the non-organic product. And then that's what my presentation at this session. And thank you so much for your time and the opportunity that being provided to me. I will hand this over to the moderator. May peace be upon us all.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
May peace be upon us all. Ya, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So, Pak Abdullah, thank you so much for your presentation. I really appreciate your presentation, especially regarding your expertise. But what is interesting is maybe I will share note that at the end of your presentation is how you actually as a user of organic fertilizer acknowledge the producer, the manufacturer. So there are two producers actually. So how those producers can collaborate. This is also become an important note how they can collaborate, and if it's possible, up to achieve one product with complete nutrition. This is interesting. For example, when we can collaborate that specify for organic fertilizer that's focusing on potato. This is interesting. And also for other participants. And the ladies and gentlemen, we already have 4 spokespersons who really whom I really appreciate for their sharing and their expertise and their experience. Of course, from those presentations, there are many studies or questions. The question comes from YouTube and also comes from our discussion in this morning. So maybe we will go to the Q&A session. I already collect some of the questions, but however, I will read the question that that is related for the first material, which is Bapak Daeng Nassa. So the question comes from Eri through YouTube. So Pak Daeng Nassa, maybe if you may to address this question. And the question is, what is the biggest challenge but when you provide the education for local sustainable local food to the others? So, can you understand the question? Okay. Thank you. Yes, go ahead, Pak Daeng. So this is from Derry. Eri. I don't know is it okay, so for Eri, so my view there are a lot because sometimes the one who come to study in local level come from around Makassar or from outside Sulawesi. They usually come in a certain group. For example, the one that a student from certain school, a student from a school, they usually come with their friends and so on and so forth. However, they're not really interested regarding organic farmer or or local food. So basically, they just join the activity that is being conducted by the school. So we also provide a scheme so they are able to build their interest to have active role in the diversity, food diversity, or to choose organic products when they already have the capability to do that in the future. And we also like to push them to become the founder with our food diversity that well we can also can provide medicine for to cure some illness or some disease. So basically we have facilitation and that's what we share. We stimulate them. So for example, so we have some plant that can cure the toothache. So that's basically our traditional medicine in Sulawesi. So we share they know what they experience in their daily life because this pep was believed to be able to cure a toothache in Sulawesi. And also we provide certificate because we believe that the certificate that in the future, because from because the student usually being neglected, they consider not important. But when we give this, when we share this to their parents, and when they grow up and so on and so forth, we can stimulate their activity. Oh, I went to the Nassa. So, and then that's what we call by planting the memories to the children. And also we appreciate and stimulate them. Why we share them? We share them to know the plan and so on and so forth. Because in the classroom, the teacher only talk in one semester only some words that I remember from my teacher's material. I don't know. Maybe when I heard that, maybe when I was comfortable or I was being open or whatever I experienced at that time, that's the one that we provide to them, the comfortness, comfortable. So that's why we have what we call self-appreciation. We utilize appreciation words to the kids so they feel that they're being appreciated. So all the good things happens to them and they have the belief. So we send the message, a good message that can help them to build their good character, to build their interest, to develop the interest, and so on and so forth. So that's the mechanism. It's not because they want to learn, but because they have to join the activity from the school. And the other challenge is also that actually my background is basically culture, so it's not for geology or forestry or farmer. So my first challenge that I really have a life memory about the plant. I learned about language or plants, but after I work uh, in this work, I want to go back to my hometown, and then I think that the university has a lot of smart people, so that's why I decide to go back to my hometown, so I can have support biodiversity. And I learned one good experience because I really focus and interest at this point, and I feel that I learn everything, I absorb everything. Uh, so when someone told me about a certain type of plant, I memorize that, and then I can learn and find out more, and then I share the story again to the other people. So the challenge that I experienced and now I share it with other people, every story that I heard. So just focus on what we're doing and do not waste any time. And when I realized that I really like this topic, so just focus on your topic, focus on your interest, and by believing on yourself and consistently, I then able to develop this. And the unique is that we develop this, and also I focus on the biodiversity and also the bioculture of
Terima kasih
diversity.
Pak Daeng. Untuk Saudara Eri mungkin bisa menjawab ya bahwa memang
Maybe Eric can respond to what Padang has said, that the challenges are very great, especially amidst our generation who are being bombarded by information where there are advertisements from corporations where regarding fast food, and don't understand how the food is being processed. And if we look at the corporation advertisements, mostly they are emphasizing on imported products, and this village is introducing how local food and the potential of biodiversity have so much benefits aside from nutrition. uh, there are other factors that are beneficial. Thank you very much, Padang. Maybe we can continue with the next question. This is a question for Pak Uus from Marco. I think he's a male. His question to you is, what kind of synergy is needed from each stakeholder to to encourage the use of organic fertilizers at the national level? So basically, the question, I think, is where I think that sometimes even you find it problematic, what kind of synergy is needed? And also, Pauis, what is the strategy that needs to be done? Go ahead, Paus.
Terima kasih
Thank you,
Pak Doni ya.
Padoni.
Juga terima kasih
And also, I thank
Mas Marco
Mas
atas
Marco
pertanyaannya
for
sangat luar
your
biasa
question, which is quite
mengenai
extraordinary,
sinergitas sesuatu
regarding
program
synergy of a program
harus bersinergi
that has
ketika
to
kita
be
ingin
in
melakukan
synergy when we want to achieve
program
success
karena
by working together.
individu
Because if we do things individually, the result
kurang maksimal
would
ketika kita
not be maximum.
berkolaborasi dan
But
bersinergi
when compared to when we collaborate
program
and
yang sukses.
synergize
Ini salah
to
satu
have a sustainable program, this is one
sebut
example.
saja
This
ketika
is just one example. When
memproses
we
program di mana
create
penyelamatan
a program for the
nah,
saving of
ini
the river of
salah satu kasus bahwa
Citarum River from cow
organisasi
dung, the cow dung is
yang
processed to become a quality product like organic fertilizer. This
menuntut
will demand
fasilitas yang
a
betul-betul
high level of synergy
dibutuhkan dari sejak awal. Contoh, untuk
and should begun
menjaga
at the initial stage. In
induk
order
dan
to raise the awareness of the breeders, we cannot
menghadapi
just give them
tapi
counseling as a
kita
group, but through synergy,
keberhasilan itu
the
akan dilihat
success
pada
will be more
pelatihan
evident.
Pak Kapolsek
For example, we
kepada
conduct the counseling with the
kepala
police
desa.
chief, with the head of the
Itu akan
village.
lebih menyentuh
This is going to
akan
be
lebih
far
memberikan
more
kesadaran yang
effective
tinggi
in
terhadap
raising the awareness of the breeders. That is the first point
kesadaran saja.
in the
Itu
context
yang
of
harus
raising
ditingkatkan.
awareness. The second point is that
Penyiapan
when
produksinya saja itu
in terms of absorption of the production, it also needs synergy of the program. That's an example. If a policy maker in one province can encourage, can invite
kontribusi nyata
people to
terhadap
give concrete
penanganan
contributions to
lingkungan
save the
kondisinya
Citarum River by
bisa
using the fertilizer
berkesinambungan.
produced from the river
Menyerap
in a sustainable way.
500 ton
For
fertilizer
example, just 500 tons
menyerap
of
produksi
used by every
menghasilkan
municipality and district,
variakan
I think we
seluruh
could
produksi yang
all the productions from the river can be absorbed, because just 500 tons per district is, or will come up to around 12,000 tons per year, and that means that we will have to prepare around 1,000 tons per month. If you just take 20% of that 1,000 of the cow dung that is being discarded into the river, that is already meaningful. That is just one example of a collaboration. As can you imagine what it would be like if it was at the national level? We know that the president, through the Minister of Agriculture, has established a program of 1,000 organic villages. So we can collaborate with all those programs so that on the program we can achieve organic river program can be achieved, the Citarum River can be saved, and that is a success through that is achieved through synergy. That is what I understand, and that is what I desire for the future. And just an additional point from me, it is really an honor for me to be able to be among such heroes of the environment, for the welfare of the people. And hopefully on this occasion, I would like to give my appreciation, because the foundation of Rumah Energy is one of our the parties that are giving us assistance to get the adequate recognition among the organic champions like Pa Abdullah just now. Hopefully, he is also having this kind of success, and we are being motivated by that. In all my limited knowledge, I would like to propose to our assisting partner in UNPAD, like Prof. Ellen and the others, hopefully in future we can produce organic fertilizers mentioned by Padoni, especially for potatoes or for rice. So indicators is not the only indicators, can only not be by the success of production, but also through the taste of the food produced, and through the capacity of competent people, we will have even more specific success in this field. And that is it from me. If I may add something to that, I hope that it will be beneficial. The challenges that we face can be dynamic in nature. For example, in the begin, in the initial departure, it would be good if we could raise the awareness of the breeders. When the awareness is there and we then produce, and then the next problem is the marketing of the product. And after, it may, if the problem is because of permits of the product, and through the guidance of Rumah Energy, we have received certification for that, and hopefully our permit to distribution will be valid, and that opens the opportunities in the market. And thankfully, once we have the legality of the product, the demand for production for next year is going to be very large. Hopefully this is beneficial for us all, thanks to Padoni, and hopefully God will of course bless this.
Kurang lebih 15.000 ton untuk kita harus produksi.
The market is already waiting for 15,000 tons for next year, and we have to be prepared from now on. So no, the market will no longer be the problem. Maybe the problem will be raw materials for the product. That is one of the phenomenons where we'll be facing challenges that are dynamic. Once we overcome one problem, there others may come. So I'm very much interested in what Pa Abdullah is doing. Hopefully this will inspire us all although we can only meet each other in this forum, hopefully under the guidance of Prof. Ellen and the others. From the University of Pajajaran, we can give benefit. Thank, thank you very much, Pak Doni.
Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Peace be upon you all.
Terima kasih banyak Pak
Thank you
Uus
very much,
atas
Pak Uus, for
jawaban dan
your
juga
answer
penjelasannya.
and also for your
Atau
presentation. Pak Mas Marco,
mudah-mudahan kita
hopefully
puas dengan
you are
pembicaraan
satisfied
saya
with
juga
this
merangkumkan
answer,
apa yang
and I will try to
saya
help in
tulis. Jadi menurut
summarizing
kami
what Pak Uus was saying.
yang
So
pertama
according to Pak
adalah
Uus, the first thing is the
kolaborasi
business climate, how this collaboration can be undertaken to maximize the business climate. Secondly, regarding the policymakers, access to them is also a necessity, especially when the government has a program to save the environment, for example, or on the other side, when the local governments have a local annual allocation of budget for the provision of organic fertilizers or subsidies for organic fertilizers and the distribution. And thirdly, innovation is innovation. This is already being done by PAUS. So the innovation that is done through working together with educational institutions, and they have the capacity to create innovations or product diversification to discover what the market needs. So that is a summary of the what Pak Uus has been had just said. And now we are going to the next question, which is aimed at Bapak Muklis. The question comes from Roy through YouTube. Pak Muklis, thank you for your presentation. I am Roy, a young horticultural farmer in Central Junction. Can you share the file on the pH for bioslurry and what treatment it should be used to make a good bioslurry fertilizer? Maybe there are improvements to be made, Pak Muklis. If the bioslurry is to be improved, what treatment should be used? I think that's what the question is all about. Please go ahead, Pak Muklis, to answer the
Baik, terima
question.
kasih atas
Okay, thank you very
pertanyaannya
much
dari
for the
Pak Roy,
question from Pak Roy.
di Jawa Tengah. Pertama
First of all,
pH slurry.
regarding the pH of a bioslurry,
Tahu kita bahwa
to our
dari
knowledge,
beberapa
from the several analysis done by some laboratories, or we did some testing ourselves, the pH of bioslurry is only within a range of 6.5 to 7. That's the pH. And the latest test result in the laboratory of the Ministry of Agriculture is at 6.5 for solid and liquid bioslurry. And as I have said in my presentation, 6.5 is the neutral pH, which is very good for the growth of the plants. But there are some types of plants that needs more acidic or base soil. These are vegetative plants that may need a pH of lower than 6. And secondly, it is the treatment. Generally, treatment for bioslurry, because bioslurry does not have so much content as chemical fertilizers. So what is the treatment that is best? Let's say the treatment so that this bioslurry has the same content as chemical fertilizers. This means we have to add elements that are contained in chemical fertilizers, such as kalium, which is equal which is equal to that contained in chemical fertilizers. We need to measure how much kalium is contained in chemical fertilizer. If it's only 0 point so in bioslurry, we have to add more kalium so that it can be the same as chemical fertilizer. But when that is not possible to do, we have no choice but to rely on the volume of the fertilizer used per kilogram. So we would have to use around 8 to 10 kilograms of bioslurry fertilizer. That's how it is. Thank you.
Baik, terima kasih.
Okay, thank you, Bapak Muklis.
Semoga juga bisa
Hopefully this will answer Pak Roy's question.
bioslurry ini memang
Bioslurry fertilizer has different characteristics of chemical fertilizer, especially for the macro elements. As Pak Mukli said, you can overcome that by adding the volume or adding the contents of the bioslurry, or and there is another question for Pak Muklis. There are actually two questions that are from Ibu Fatima. The second question is for Pak Muklis. Pak Muklis, actually, you may have some experience where bioslurry is applied on medicinal herbs or plants, and what were the results? Did they bring good results? Can they be used? What's the answer? Okay, thank you, Ibu Fatima. Regarding bioslurry being used on medicinal plants, so based on our knowledge, these kind of experiences have been tried out. It shows us that bioslurry is more to fulfill the nutrients in the soil. So when we are, first of all, we have to know the condition of the soil. Let's say the pH of the soil tends to be acid or it tends to be base. So why do we have to know the condition of the soil? Well, that way at least we know this which system we can use on that soil. But if the focus is on medicinal plants, I think the principle is that it can be used on all plants. It's just the application that is different. For single root plants, you cannot use bioslurry directly under the stem, but you have to use it. You create a small shallow hole around the plant, so and you do that below the leaves, and then that is where you apply the bioslurry, which is surrounding that plant or tree. The best treatment or the most effective treatment is by processing the land. For medicinal plants or for any kind of plant, before doing the planting, we have to apply the bioslurry to neutralize the condition of the soil. For example, we use lime to neutralize the pH of the land, because bioslurry not only neutralize the soil, but it also provides oxygen so that the microbes in the soil can function well. Thank you very much, Bapak. Thank you, Pak Muklis, for your explanation. Hopefully, it answers the question from Ibu Fatima. if I may summarize the reply from Muklis, actually all plants need nutrients, but the application of bioslurry, including for medicinal plants, can be different as compared to other forms of fertilizers. It has to be based on whether it is an annual plant or just one-time plant, or it is a perennial plant. That this then the treatment would be different. And now we go to the question which is aimed for at Bapak Abdullah, which comes from Mbak Maria Francisca through YouTube. Papa Abdullah has already actually answered the question from, who was it? In Cilacap, or Fatima from Cilacap, through the chat box. However, here's another question from Ibu Maria Francisca from through YouTube, and the question is the challenges in campaigning and disseminating organic fertilizers for potato farmers in Jamar. What are the challenges you face there? Okay, thank you, Pak Dodi. I will try to answer that question. Thank you, Ibu Maria, for your question. The challenge that we face is not how to disseminate the use of organic fertilizers, because almost all potato farmers or those who are planting in highlands are very fanatical in using organic fertilizer. The problem or the challenge is how to educate them so that these farmers are become wise in using the fertilizer correctly, in terms of the volume, in terms of the time, and in terms of balance, because anything that is excessive would not be good. If you do something excessively, it will produce poor results. Why is this a challenge? Because in its practice, for this activity, we need activities that are effective for the farmers. For example, if we want to teach them about the dose of the volume of the fertilizer and which type is best for one plot of land, we have to do an analysis of the fertility of the soil. Sorry. After that, for that we need time. There is a cost involved there, and usually the farmers generally will consider this as a challenge, as an obstacle, so that they will apply a dose not based on the type of the plant, because there are times when some plants need nutrients and other times they don't need nutrients. So what should be given, should it be macro or micronutrients? And these nutrients should be given according to the condition of the plant. If we do that excessively, then we need to reduce the volume or the dose of the nutrient given. Okay, thank you, Bapak Abdullah. It's very interesting, your statement that you just gave, because when I was working on the ground, and I'm still doing that to now, what Pak Abdullah was saying is that the use of organic fertilizer for potato farmers or multicultural farmers in West Java or northern or southern part of Bandung, the use of organic fertilizer is dependent on the knowledge of the farmers in terms of the dose applied, and also in their wisdom as as to
masih lokal.
the use
Ya.
of
Jadi
local
yang
resources.
lucu ini Pak Bagas saya
What is
sampaikan
funny, if I may
jadi
tell you a
pupuk
short story here,
sapi misalnya ketika
cow
kita
dung
beli
fertilizer,
dengan
when
harga
treated with a mixture
campur
of
yang
components with maybe
berlebihan, jadi itu memang
chicken dung,
lemah dan bisa jaringan
it can be very, the slurry
berlebihan.
can be very
Tapi
light
banyak juga orang yang
compared
mengkonsumsi
to a slurry
yang
from
biasanya ya dibuang Pak.
chicken dung. They use
Pakai
chicken
fermentasi
dung
dan
sometimes and then they
kadang-kadang
discard
dan
the
pupuk
cow
berlapis
dung.
rumah mereka buang. Nah, ada juga petani yang
There are also some
berdasarkan
farmers
hobi gitu. Saya punya
who
luas
act
tanaman
based
cabai
on
padahal
their
tanamannya
heart's
sedang bagus,
with desire.
tapi saya
They're
belum
still
berhasil.
not
Saya kasih
satisfied,
pupuk lagi,
yet
saya kasih pupuk
the
lagi,
plant is
tapi
doing
nggak
well, so they
nggak
add more
menghasilkan
fertilizers. So
tanamannya.
this can
Saya
be a
bingung
form of a challenge
jadi
that
agak
Pa
nggak
Abdullah was
agak
talking
high
about.
cost nantinya.
There will be
Investasinya
high
akan
cost
jauh
when
tinggi
you
selain itu.
give an overdose of
Ya, jadi
fertilizers to your
mengatakan
plant.
tadi
This is
sebenarnya
very
ya
interesting.
saya sebagai moderator pun
Actually, as a
baru
moderator, I would like to
diberi
be more involved in
koordinasi
this
oleh peserta
discussion,
dianggap
but I'm just afraid
ya.
that
Nah,
the
ada
participants will
jadwalnya
feel
dan
that I
ada
am
undangan diskusi yang
doing
akan
more than I should.
dilaksanakan
But
di
hopefully, through this
jadi salah
discussion,
satu
can
jembatan
be a
bagi para
bridge
praktisi organik
for
agar
organic practitioners
bisa meningkatkan
to
pemanfaatan
improve the use
resource
of bioslurry
berupa
as abundant
bagaimana
resources in the future. And for
hadiah
the
kepada
participants who
petani
are present
untuk
here this morning through YouTube
semua
or
ini
through the Zoom
bagian
meeting,
bukan
for any of you
materi daripada
who need the material of the from the
ekspresi
presenters
atau narasumber
or
kita
from the resource persons, you can download now. We already have provided the access in the chat
saya
box.
juga berharap
And I
nanti ada
also
penekanan
hoping,
bagaimana
because there are questions
naturalisasi
on the application of
di
bioslurry, hopefully Rumah Energy can
pemilihan sumber
provide the link
cara pemakaian
on how to
proses
apply bioslurry fertilizer, because
apa
what
namanya
I know
rumah energi memiliki
is that Rumah Energy has
bagian
the
biogas
resources for those who own biogas
gitu
or maybe whose
pengamanannya dan lain
land is damaged, maybe they can improve that.
jadi
So that is would be my request to Rumah Energy.
pagi hari ini
Ladies and gentlemen,
kita sudah
we have reached
beranjak kepada ujung acara ya
the end of
dan
the session.
sebelum acara
And
berakhir
before we conclude
saya
this
memohon
session,
kepada semua
I
peserta
implore all the
semua
participants
pembicara
and all the
untuk
speakers
berkenan
to
membuka
please
ruang videonya ya
open their
dan
videos,
membuka videonya masing-masing karena kita akan
because
melakukan
we are going
foto
to
bersama
do a
dan
group
mohon kepada
photo.
seluruh peserta
So
untuk
I am asking all the
membuka
participants
videonya.
to open their videos to do that.
Saya kasih aba-aba untuk foto bersama Bapak Ibu.
I will give you the directions for the group photo.
2,
In one,
3.
two, three.
Sekali lagi.
One more time, please. 1,
2,
2,
3.
3.
Kepada Bapak Moderator, saya persilahkan kembali.
I give you the mic back to the moderator. Okay, thank you very much to
Semua yang sudah
all
hadir,
of you who have been
saya
attending
bukan
this session.
menjadi sebagai murid yang kualat ya. Tadi saya melihat bahwa di sini
I
juga
don't want to be a bad student because I see so many of my teachers and my seniors and my colleagues
ya.
from Rumah
Jadi
Energy.
sebenarnya banyak teman-teman yang lebih mumpuni tapi
There are many
karena
more
saya
of you
saya dan tentu
are
dorongan
who are
saya sendiri
capable, but I have been entrusted
menyampaikan
with this duty,
terima kasih
and
kepada
I would like
para
to thank
partisipan
all the
yang
participants
sudah hadir
who have made the time to attend, access our link on YouTube, and many more questions have come from the YouTube's link. Hopefully, this is not the end
perjuangan kita.
of our
Justru ini
struggle.
adalah
Hopefully,
awal yang bagus
this
di
is
mana
the
semua pihak boleh
beginning
bertemu
for all
dan
parties to be able to
mudah-mudahan pada
convene,
akhir
and in
inisiatif
future
dan
these
kesepakatan
resource persons can meet in person, and Rumah Energy
bisa semakin
will be more
tercerahkan
successful
dan juga
and be
sama-sama
more effective
membantu
in the communities
para
to
pemimpin
influence
kabupaten
policy makers
industri
also
baik
on regarding bioslurry,
lokal
both at the local
hingga
as well
nasional.
as the
Itu saja
national
mungkin
level. And that is it from me for this event.
saya ucapkan banyak
Thank
terima
you.
kasih
I
kepada
thank all of
panitia yang
you,
sangat luar
especially the
biasa.
speakers with
Saya
their
berdoa kepada Allah Subhanahu wa
great
taala semoga
presentations. I
Rumah
pray to
Energi
Lord
dalam
that we
segala
can one
usaha
day meet face to
selancar.
face with all of
Baik,
you.
untuk mengakhiri
And to
perjumpaan kali
conclude
ini,
this meeting,
saya ucapkan saya mohon maaf
I
bila ada
apologize if there are
kata-kata yang
if there is
menyakitkan,
anything I
tetapi
have said or
saya
to
yakin
offend anybody, but I'm sure
ada
that all of
maaf dan
you
berbaik hati ya,
are
sehingga saya
people
tidak
who
melanggar.
forgive easily, so it
Wabillahi
will not
taufiq
be
wal
hard for me.
hidayah.
Peace
Wassalamualaikum
be upon
warahmatullahi
you all.
wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
Waalaikumsalam
wabarakatuh.
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Salam kenal, mohon pamit semua. Terima kasih banyak.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.